Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ant-Man channel. The um, it is Wednesday, the 8th of October, 2014, and I am your host, Ant-Man. Thank you for joining me today. I have an article in front of me from 2 days ago that I'm going to read today. It is from Nap Nasworth of the ChristianPost.com. Supreme Court declines to hear gay marriage cases for now. Decision undermines rule of law, critics warn. Before you even understand politics in this country, you need to understand one thing. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights is not even, it is undermined nowadays through a new type of mindset that the progressives invented when we had the Industrial Revolution. To pretty much put it in a short phrase, the progressive liberals think you're too stupid to run your life and that the government has to do it for you. That's pretty much how they think. So they're not really following what we want done. Instead, they think that it's the president's job to influence our culture and society. That's why you see people. That's why you see Michael Sam or anyone who does anything gay get praised by the president, or anyone beheading people gets praised by the president because he wants to influence the culture to accept homosexuality and Islam into the mainstream culture, so that it's all just one big gulag of people here or whatever. So it's just one big gigantic soup of different things going on here. But it is that in and of itself has so much more to be said about it. But I'll just get into this. There's a picture here of the exterior of the U.S. Supreme Court. It's seen in Washington on March 5th, 2014. U.S. Supreme Court justices on Wednesday appear to look for a compromise that would enable them to avoid overruling a 26-year-old precedent that made it easier for plaintiffs to negotiate large class action settlements. So, the U.S. Supreme Court declined Monday to hear appeals from 5 states of appellate court rulings striking down state marriage laws. The decision to not hear the cases for now means that Virginia, Wisconsin, and Utah will begin recognizing marriages of two people of the same gender. Since the appeals courts for those states cover the other states, the decision could mean that an additional 6 states may be required to recognize same-sex marriages, even if the voters or elected bodies of those states choose to define civil marriage as only the union of one man or one woman, I mean. You see, what that pretty much means is that the rule of law has been thrown out the window. They don't care about me and you and what we think and what we have to say. Instead, they're going to cater to a minority because they have an agenda. And yeah, that does violate the rule of law because we don't want to acknowledge this. We don't want to accept it, pretty much, with all love. You know what I mean? It's just we don't hate gay people. It's just that we don't accept and we don't want to give our vote to that. And we have every right to do that. That has nothing to do with hatred. I know you want to pull that cop out on everyone and say that I'm full of hate. That's why I don't support your lifestyle. But I've studied history, and I know that in the words of Joseph Stalin, you're being used as a useful idiot. I mean, because they have an agenda, and if they are ignoring the mass population of the United States to cater to a minority, it's because they have an agenda. And yeah, our country's been hijacked by liberal progressives who got their way of thinking from German scholars that came to America to tell us how administrative law or power should be looked at. And so we have this King John running from the Magna Carta thing going on nowadays, where Obama doesn't listen to the Constitution or what we have to say. Instead, he's hiding behind bureaucratic, agencies and stuff like that to target his political enemies and do all kinds of stuff, right? So let's see. The decision is not. The decision to not hear the cases for now means that Virginia, Wisconsin. Oh, I just read that. Excuse me. The court was petitioned by both traditional marriage supporters and same-sex marriage supporters to hear the cases. The court could be waiting for a split decision at the appellate level for hearing the cases. So far at the appellate level, the court have only struck down state marriage laws. There are several cases pending at other appeals courts. However, if one of those courts uphold the state marriage law, the court will be more likely to hear that the cases. The court has until January if it is going to take up gay marriage this term. So the country, the United States of America, is not for we the people anymore. I guess it's for the state and whatever it is agenda they want to follow, which can be anything. It can be Agenda 21. It can be New World Order agenda. I don't know, but it can be whatever they want. If it's not what we have to say, then it is what the state has to say. And those out there who are corrupt are going to hide behind the state to get their way done, whether or not they studied politics or history and want to repeat things in the past. They don't want to recognize that this is a classic type of picture that we have here when democracy falls into despotism through majority tyranny. Marginalizing people and using a minority as a mob to attack that group of people. That's what we have here. Because the only people that have anything to say about marriage are Christians. So what they're going to do is they're going to use us to be the enemy of the state. You see what I mean? Because the gays are going to hide behind the state to get their way so that we can end up having a French Revolution, have all this type of fruitcake stuff going on in this country, where your kids, and they're not hurting anybody, right? But no, your kids are going to be subject to seeing a lot of, it kind of reminds me of like a Disney movie. If you guys remember like The Hunchback or whatever that movie was, when they have the Feast of Fools, it's just a matter of time when we have, Christmas going back to what it originally was and us celebrating it that way, where it's just about, the kind of stuff that went on during the Feast of Fools or Christmas and stuff like that. If you guys really understood what this holiday is, it used to be open orgies, open murders, no law for one day. And kids would even be involved in all of this debauchery and lawlessness. This is where this country is going to head. And I'm not, you can look at me and be like, this guy's out of his mind. But this is just what history teaches you. This is where we're going toward if this is what your government wants. And if they're not listening to us but want to use division, divide, and conquer tactics against us to bring us back into this type of, neo-feudalism, then, you know what I mean, be my guest. Call me crazy all you want. I know that you're basing those judgments off of ignorance and that you don't have any, water to your statements don't hold any water. They're strawman arguments. You just arrogantly spew things out of your mouth to try to say that I'm wrong, and it's just kind of like, well, I just observe, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's just like what Sherlock Holmes says to Dr. Watson. You see, Watson, but you do not observe, son. And that's what all I have to say to you, is that you see things, but you don't observe. And I understand that you can have two different perspectives on an issue. And usually your own corrupt, ways bias toward one or the other. So it's not really based on knowledge. It's biased toward your emotionally attached, whatever it is, opinion you have. Ryan Anderson, W.E. Simon Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank, criticized the court's decision as leaving in place poor court decisions that trampled upon democratic processes or government of the governed. This is an unfortunate setback for sound constitutional self-government and a setback for a healthy marriage culture, he wrote. Same-sex marriage supporters and traditional marriage supporters both have reasonable arguments, Anderson continues, so the decision on how to define marriage for the purposes of state law should be made through democratic process. It's not forced upon states by judges. Well, in America now, judges get probably bribed and paid to do the will of corrupt politicians. You probably don't believe that, but in all honesty, that's true. Judges might as well wear decals all over themselves because they do have sponsors. And they're not about justice. We're living in the time of America where you can relate our times to the book of Judges, where people do whatever's right in their own eyes. And our judges are corrupt too. Our judges don't really care about justice. They're more, the Industrial Revolution did a lot of good and a lot of bad for our country because people, when they are blessed with prosperity, they tend, and this goes back to ancient Israel, man. When you get blessed with prosperity and wealth, you tend to forget about what got you there, and you tend to cling on to New Age philosophies and ideologies that tell you why you got there, and you forget about what got you there. And because of that, you lose it all, because that fundamental principle that you got there with is forgotten. Therefore, you are not working on that principle that produces that type of prosperity and whatnot. And it's never good when a society thinks it's, you know what I mean, when it goes away from being humble and going toward that we're so great, hoorah, rah rah type of thing, because you get decadent. And when you see that in other cultures like Rome and stuff, they got decadent. The Romans were super smart, you guys. Where do you think you get the word virtue from? Virtus, and that means manly. They used to consider people who were virtuous manly. If you weren't a virtuous person, they looked at you like a wuss. And that's like most men in our culture nowadays, because all they do is watch MTV all day. So they became decadent, just like anybody can, because of prosperity and wealth. They became arrogant, and they became, complacent, just like how America is today. So anyways, let me get back into this. In a system of limited constitutional self-government, the people of their elected representatives should be making decisions about marriage policy. And there are reasonable arguments on both sides of this debate. Judges should not insert their own policy preferences about marriage and declare them to be required by the Constitution, he wrote. It is administrative, it's pretty much just not having the checks and balances, the three branches of government. If the president can just do whatever he wants, or if judges have that kind of power too. It's what kind of a word would I want to use here? It's the danger of administrative law, regulations, instead of adhering to statutes and stuff like that. But here we go. Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council, a social conservative advocacy organization, also warned that the decision undermines democracy and the rule of law. Liberals, I know how you liberals like to cry about, oh, that's not fair, and da-da-da-da. Well, hey, man, you're not being very democratic with the way that you're doing business in our country now. You're doing everything with bully tactics now. And you're doing it against the ignorance of the people, because a lot of people are not up to date with these types of issues. And so you're using bully tactics of giving people guilt trips and condemning people, telling us we're haters of you because we don't let you do whatever you want. We revere God. We fear God, and we know that nations have wealth and prosperity and liberty because of God. And when you go against what God tells you to do to have liberty, then you lose it. And I do like hardcore believe that, man, that if you want to fall into sexual immorality, then the financial prosperity of your country is going to be the first thing to go. And we have books by Jonathan Cahn that describe this down to the minutes and in the seconds of the economy crashing and all that, and all that stuff, dude. It's really not a coincidence. It's all like all these things happen for a reason. Only atheists and people who are probably lowly, not educated very highly, and they believe in chance and luck, but that doesn't go on in reality. What goes on in reality is purpose, and there are meaning for things that go on, whether it be corrupt or whether it be divine. It all happens for a reason, and there is no such thing as coincidence. That's for a very naive person to believe in things like that. Even more alarming, he said, lower court judges are undermining our form of government and the rights and freedoms of citizens to govern themselves. This judicially led effort to force same-sex marriage on people will have negative consequences for our republic. Oh yeah, you forgot, didn't you, liberals, that we're a constitutional republic, we're not a democracy? Democracies are not sure things, don't you know that? Don't you know that democracies always tend to fall into despotism? I mean, it's just that if you forget about history, you will repeat it, and it doesn't change. It doesn't change, atheists and liberals. Truth is not subject to change. If it ain't new, it ain't true. Or if it's new, I mean it ain't true. If it's true, it ain't new, is what I meant to say. Because truth never evolves. Truth never changes. So, you know what I mean? It's just, that's that new age. I mean, I think that the new age, all this like postmodern way of thinking is all so embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing to think like that. And it's because people don't research things. And you listen to people who have letters in front of their names on the television. And I love how like nowadays they put celebrities on the television to tell you about the universe and stuff like that. And it's like, that's their method of getting you to believe in a lie, man, is that they put shiny idols in front of you to bow down to, so that you will believe in everything they say and believe in, as if it's absolute truth, just because you're getting it from some type of expert or something. But it's really, knowledge, man, can be obtained, man. You just got to seek it out. And the Bible is cool because the Bible tells you to love wisdom more than gold and silver, and to look for it more, like you value it more than gold and silver. So look for it. Look, you can learn. I'm in love with learning. I used to hate reading, but I like reading now because it allows me to learn. I have found love with learning, and you never run out of things to learn about. So, you know what I mean? It never ends. Um, let's see. Even more alarming. Oh yeah, I read that. Not only as it relates to natural marriage, but also undermining the rule of and respect for law. Same-sex marriage supporters celebrated the court's decision, and only they celebrated. This is a huge step forward for Utah and the entire country, Shannon Minter, legal director for the National Center for Lesbian Rights, said. We are hopeful that the other cases pending across the country will also vindicate the freedom to marry so that all couples, no matter where they travel or live, will be treated as equal citizens and have the same basic security and protections for their families that other Americans enjoy. Security? What are we, stoning gay people? Like, we're not doing anything to you. It's just that you have such a sensitive and insecure personality that you get really uptight and you get angry and hateful and start saying things that aren't true about my character when I point out the immorality of your lifestyle. It's not that I don't love you and think of you as a human being and all that, but it's just that you're living in sin. And sin is folly, and sin leads to death. And because of that, you go to hell eventually. You see, God doesn't just save you from eternal damnation and separation from himself. He saves you from the folly of sin, from the curse of this world. And that's if only you knew the difference is light and day. It's color and black and white. That's literally my corny analogy from when I got saved. I feel like I walked out of Pleasantville and into real color, real reality. And it's just, you see things for what they are. The veil, like it says in the Bible when Paul got saved by Jesus Christ, as if scales fell off of his eyes, man. It really does feel like that when you get saved. Like, you see things like through a clear lens, and it's no longer filtered through all these corrupt lies. So anyways, Russell Moore, president of the Southern Baptist Convention's Ethics and Religious Liberties Commission, encouraged Christians to neither respond to the decision with a siege mentality nor by jettisoning a Christian sexual ethic. The sexual revolution didn't start at Woodstock, it is always with us, he said, so Christians should view the same-sex marriage debate as an opportunity to speak to the broader culture about a Christian vision of what marriage should be, and to embody that vision in our churches. Let's love our gay and lesbian neighbors, amen. He added, let's move forward with persuasion and with confidence. This is no time for retreat or for resentment. This is a time for mission. All right, I'm just going to add, yes, this is an Imago Dei issue. This has to do with the image of the way that our Creator made us and intended us to be. And it is a gigantic issue when it comes to prosperity in our country and morality. It is a gigantic issue. We need to respect the way that God made us, and that is that He made us a man and a woman, and that we become one through marriage. And that is a covenant that He cut with us, too. That is a covenant given directly to us from God, that we keep marriage between a man and a woman, and that we respect the image and that which we bear of our Creator, to be intelligent, loving, creative, and powerful, and also that we have, all this, we're just made in His image, and it's just, we have to respect that. And on the other hand, yes, Christians, don't fall into the game that these people play when they start calling you names and start telling you who you are. We cannot get into the debate of this with anybody when in that fashion. It has to be loving. It has to be a type of thing where we present what we believe in lovingly, and we cannot get into these bashing each other things, man. This has to stop. We cannot get into this bully tacting that they get into when they tell us who we are. We got to reach out to them lovingly. So with that said, you guys, this is an Imago Dei issue. This is also an issue of what our country stands for. Our country is a country about freedom and the will of the people, and that our government hears what we have to say. And if they don't care about what we have to say, then we should be concerned about what country we're living in nowadays. But anyways, God bless you and have a good day.